This evening's forum is being brought to you by the Tribal Elderly Program, and I'd like to introduce to you several of the people that are on the Elderly Committee. I don't know where he went, but Mike Greeley is our chairperson. He's from Bikuli District. We have Carl Lufkins, who is the temporary representative from Long Hollow District. Cynthia Starr is the representative from Buffalo Lake. Karen Joseph is the representative from Enemy Swim. Edith Joe Marks is our at-large member. I'm missing anybody. And myself, I represent Old Agency. Just a few, I don't want to say rules, but we don't have any paper to hand out so you can to write your questions on. So when you have a question, we ask that you speak as loud as you can so the people up here can hear you. We ask that your questions be fair to all the candidates, that your questions not be directed to what's happening in tribal government right now, because that gives an unfair advantage to those of the people who are currently on council. Also, we don't want any personal attacks or snide remarks made against the candidates. With that, I guess I'll introduce everybody, starting here on my left, Frances Crawford. Next is Lisa LaBelle, Donovan White, Eddie Johnson, Jesse Larson, and Viva Joe Dubois. Crystal Owen is also one of the candidates, but she's currently at a meeting right now, and she will be showing up as soon as her meeting's over. Okay, anybody want to go first? Bill.
Because of the current situation that drives in with finances, this is why I developed this question. The Sisseton-Wahpeton, the current tribal council has made a directive to put a tribal hiring freeze, partial hiring freeze concerning tribal programs because of the serious negative financial status of the Sisseton-Wahpeton finances. There appears to be inappropriate financial spending without appropriate financing funds available. There appears to be incidents of the old financial saying, taking from Peter to pay Paul. For example, the federal dollars to build a jail and justice center, we estimated a certain amount, we only got $5 million. So that's only enough to build a jail. It is unfortunate. Funding is not to build a jail only at this time. It's also unfortunate the majority of the time Peter can't pay Paul back. Well, how will you have to promise you're successful to become determined to address this issue? And that's to acknowledge. If you become chairman, how will you handle this financial crisis?
I'm sorry, we skipped a part here. We're giving all the candidates about 5 minutes to introduce themselves more fully and to give what they believe that makes them a good candidate. So this evening we'll start with Frances.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us, all the candidates down here, to pick our brains on the upcoming elections, as this is probably going to be one of the most important jobs whoever's elected that's ever going to hold. So I come from the Lake Traverse District, born and raised here, been on council, elected to 8 out of the last 9 years to represent the Lake Traverse District. Seen a lot of, good things come and go in my time sitting there. And no matter who's elected, it's pretty important that, you work with everybody that's there for the betterment of the people. So one of the things that, I feel is important if elected to the office of the chairman is our Justice Center. Like Bill brought up, the finances weren't what we were expecting to receive. I believe it was about $19 to $18 million that was expected to be received after our tribe helped rewrite the omnibus bill. And the Department of Justice didn't award us what we thought we were going to get. So technically speaking, we received about $5 million for our new Justice Center. And the Department of Interior is only going to give us about $1.1 million to operate on. So I believe that, right now, in my opinion, that should be the tribe's #1 priority, is to make sure that Justice Center is complete, even if it is just a jail right now. Because there can be contracts that are signed with the U.S. Marshals or with the BIA and other regional offices to hold prisoners for them, as I believe that on average, weekly, we average about maybe 12 to 13 prisoners of our own in Roberts County. We also need to hold the BIA accountable, because the BIA has an agreement with Roberts County right now, and anybody sentenced to over 30 days or more should be shipped to another BIA facility, so it's not costing any money. Right now, I believe we've spent about $166,000 on one person that's sitting in Roberts County. And, that's where we need to hold the BIA accountable. So like I said, my major thing, my most important thing right now is, getting that Justice Center done in the short 18 months that's left of this term. As far as Bill's question, some of those are, every candidate up here is probably going to be working with the Vice Chairman's office to try to straighten those out, because the Vice Chairman oversees the financial status of the tribe. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lisa LaBelle. I'm from the Bellin District. I was not born here, I was born in Chicago, but I was raised in Bellin. I currently work at Indian Health Service. I've been working there for approximately 7 years at the Woodrow Wilson Keeble Memorial Healthcare Center. I'm a disabled veteran. I do have a diagnosis of military sexual trauma. And it's kind of why, one of the reasons why I decided to run for chairman. And one of the things was that the tribal boundaries. It's not just the fact that we lost our tribal boundaries, it's the reason, I think, why. It started out with a tribal custody case, and then it eventually went to the district court, and then to the Supreme Court, and then we lost our tribal boundaries. But it didn't stop there. I think what the idea of what Bert Hirsch was trying to do eventually became a reality when he and that senator, South Dakota Senator, what is his name? James Eberst, okay. When they decided to do the Indian Child Welfare Act in 1978, it kind of answered what needed to happen in our Dakota case. And not only that, but it went farther than that. It gave, it became an act of Congress through Avers Act, and then later on it was signed by President, I can't remember his name, I think it was Carter. And then after him, what happened is they gave all tribes a exclusive jurisdiction concerning our children. And over the years, it's lasted over 40 years, that act, the Indian Child Welfare Act. It has lasted since 78, so over 40 years it's lasted. It's gone through at least 3 Supreme Court case decisions. It still lasted. It has been diminished a little bit, but the main purpose of it is still functioning. Lately, there has been a federal case against it. But my thinking behind it is that it's kind of like the reason how we could reverse the Dakota case by using the Indian Child Welfare Act case, but unfortunately, I don't know, I'm not an attorney, but I seriously don't think that will necessarily give us our original jurisdiction. What I've seen in the past was that they usually went through a president or a senator, and they asked them to make like another act. So it could be like the Lake Traverse Restoration Act, like they did with Menominee. And in that, when they do things like that, and it goes through Congress and it gets approved, it becomes more stronger than the actual original tribal treaty. It just adds on to it. And it also, you're not allowing the Supreme Court to make the determination of what our jurisdiction would be, because that would be in the act. And that would, I think it would take at least maybe a couple of senators to do something like that for our people, but it also would take a lot of planning as well, and it wouldn't happen within 2 years. But it's something that our tribe should consider doing instead of waiting for nothing to happen. I don't think going through the Supreme Court, though, is the answer. I think going through the Congress is. Another thing, too, that I wanted to talk about was the cultural center. A long time ago, when I worked for the planning department, Ed Redall had brought to me the cultural center plans that he wanted done for the reservation, and they have not been done since then. And he's, he keeps looking at me like, I put this on your desk. I didn't go back. When he first gave them to me, I was like 8 months pregnant with my daughter. And I was real poor health after she was born. And so I resigned from planning, so I never went back. But that's one thing that, even Sisseton wants to see. And it would also, I think, bring our communities together if we do, if we bring what they wanted out at the Dakota Connection site, because they wanted to upgrade the Dakota Connection and they wanted a cultural center out there. And they've been talking about it for years and nothing's happened with it. And that's something that we need to start beginning again. The second thing was to 638 Indian Health Service. It needs to be done. Other tribes are already starting it within our area. One tribe has already started, and we need to do it as well. It's not so much that we're going to be putting money into it, but managing it. And we need to manage our own Indian Health Service. The other thing I wanted to talk about too was the grocery store. There was just, as a patron, there's just so many things that I find wrong with that grocery store. But I think the purpose, though, is that we wanna have a store that promotes good health, you know, and I think that's what they started on it. Unfortunately, it turned into like, I don't know, some kind of weird competition with Teals, and I see more people shopping at Teals than I do our own grocery store. And I shop at both, you know, because there's some things that I can't get at our new one versus versus Teals. But, you know, I'm not sure what's gonna promote it, but one thing that I would like to see is either we leave it the way it is, and then we watch it slowly digress, because it's a new business. It's not gonna replace Teals right away. Most businesses don't work like that, unless you're gonna add something to it that makes it more better than Teals. For example, we have a drive-through that nobody uses at that grocery store. I think that we should have another store out there to promote more people to go to that site. We need to have either a healthy store, like either like a Chipotle, or, you know, I know it sounds like we're adding more money onto it, but we need to do that. We need to make it something that draws people to it, not just the building itself, because the building's not doing it. It's gotta be something that draws people to it. And we do have a good grocery store. It is a good grocery store. It's not bad. It's actually, you know, it's got everything any other grocery store has, but it's not drawing them away from Teals. And we need to do that. And the second thing I wanted to say real fast was that we need to improve, like, what I'd like to see is improving like a winter service. A lot of people don't like to get out of their cars during the winter when they go to the grocery store. They'd rather just, you know, that's why I think the drive-through would come in better. They could buy some certain groceries fast at the window and utilize it better. Okay, sorry, all right.
Howdy. My name is Donovan White. I was born and raised here on a reservation. I spent a lot of years growing up in Sisseton housing, one of the ghetto boys. I finished high school, graduated in Sisseton, went in the Marine Corps 4 years. I'm a combat veteran, put myself through college. I got a bachelor's degree from South Dakota State in sociology and a minor in criminal justice. I started out as a juvenile counselor in Sioux Falls and couldn't afford to pay my bills, so working for the county at JDC, so I transferred to Flandre Indian School, and I worked there for 6-7 years as a tutor and a counselor in the boys' dorm. I really loved that job. I worked with a lot of boys and students. I started a military club, which eventually we turned it into ROTC. A lot of kids went into the service. I'm very proud of that. Some of them did 20 years already, got out. They still talk to me on Facebook. So it's been a long time. I transferred to Aberdeen area office. I worked in realty, LTRO for, I think, about 10 years. So I've got about 20 years in the government. I worked over at the TEAB as the building manager for over 3.5 years. Got hired, walked in the door, we started setting up the programs and where they're going and all that. So I've seen how the TEAB works. I had close to $1 million budget. But I've seen how TEAB operates. I've been on the housing board. I've been on the TZ board. I was president of TZ school board. So I've seen how things go. And there's way too much political involvement in a lot of these programs. But, I'm running for chairman. And I agree with Francis. I think we are in a crisis. And I would say we are probably more in a crisis now than we've ever been with our finances. We continue to spend and spend and spend. We cannot keep this up. A lot of us are gonna, move on in 20 years. We got future generations that are gonna be taken over here 5, 10 years. And they are going to be stuck with staggering debt. And with Trump in power now, the grant money is not there no more, and it's not coming back, I'm telling you. It's not there no more. We need to set our priorities straight. We need long-term meth treatment center. We need it at jail. We need to hold people accountable. And I don't like that when we point fingers at the BIA all the time. Since we've been in gaming, we've made, I think, figures of $2 or $3 billion. What have we done? What do we got to show for that? The other thing is we need to look at protecting ourselves financially. If we have a crisis tomorrow, how much money do we have in our savings account? Nothing. That shows you the incompetence, the unprofessionalism that's being run here at this tribe. We should have $10 million in the bank to be able to protect ourselves. What if something happens? And now that we're in a financial crisis, looking at layoffs, cutting back on salaries, what's the first thing that's being talked about out there at the districts? Oh, let's start cutting elder funds. Is that the best that we can do? The first thing we do is start cutting off our elders? Let's take from the top. Let's start cutting all of these illegal cash payments that go out every year. It's ridiculous. Let's cut back on these staggering manager $100,000 salaries that are going on up here. It's ridiculous. We are not a Fortune 500 company. That's what these guys are getting paid up there, some of them. It's ridiculous. We need to get our priorities straight. And our priorities was not a grocery store, I'm sorry to say. And now we're forcing our elders to use that store to save it? They have to pay more for their food? As you've been told, a lot of our people don't use that store. It's sad to say. We've got to get financials out to the people, out to the district, so we can see where we're at. You got council that's been going on 5 months now, and they just now received a financial report. Something's not right here, and we need to fix it. We got to have transparency in our government. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Eddie Johnson. I'm from the Old Agency District. I was born here, the old IHS, one of the last ones I could proudly say. I went to school at Haskell Indian Nations University. I received my bachelor's in business administration with the emphasis in management. I served as the Old Agency councilman and for 2 terms, but halfway through my 2nd term, I ran for travel secretary and was elected for travel secretary. As Francis was saying, this is a big job, and I don't take it lightly, and I'm sure nobody up here does take it lightly. Everybody put their hat in for a reason and feels they can do a good job, and I'm one of them. I'm going to start off with the Justice Center with what Bill was talking about. It's unfortunate that, I was one of them ones that walked 10 miles a day lobbying, trying to get this money. Hopefully we were getting the full amount, and come to find out we're only getting enough for the detention center. But after I'd been out of office and then I was hearing that news, I was thinking, that it's sort of a good thing, because as sitting in tribal secretary, I was trying to look for funds to go into that for the mental health and all that was supposed to be tied in with the detention center. But when I went to Denver for a meeting with HHS, and I was talking with some SAMHSA grant writers, they said that no SAMHSA grants or mental health or anything to help with drug-related issues would be funded if it's inside your detention center. So I sort of look at it as a good thing, to where, we do it as phases. You can do your detention center, and then we can also get the funding to start with our drug problem that we have here on the reservation. Another reason that I was put my hat in is to help. I know Judicial and Council had a meeting, and I'd like to really start to, get our codes updated. Our codes and policies, it's what the tribe runs on. I know it's a hard process, but I appreciate Lorraine and Rhonda and all the other judicial members, what they gotta go through, and now it's a long process and just trying to get things done. With the grocery store, I know Martha said, stuff that doesn't benefit, but I've been working at the grocery store. I'd have to say you guys would be pretty proud with the grocery store. It was bad management at the beginning, but it's at a point now where it's paying its own bills from present. It can keep up with the bills now, but what was racked up in the past, that's what they're having a hard time trying to catch up with. But other than that, your grocery store is employing tribal members, and it's doing a good job. All right, thank you.
Primero, Sota Iya Ye Yapi, Chanzel Mitaro, Jesse Larson, and Bernard Kiospe, I want to give Wopida to my family, my mom, my Kushi Nokana, Aaron, and Lavina Bernard, who raised me and tried to teach me the right way to be a human being. I tried my best not to listen for a long time, but well, now I'm going to be 64, and I think I'm getting close to growing up. So I'm excited about being an adult. I'm really proud to be a Sisseton-Wahpeton. We have the best tribe in the state, and probably in North Dakota State too, which we're proud of. We have more opportunities here than any other tribe. I talk to relatives in other tribes, and I know we all envy Shakopee, but I wouldn't want to be them. They have no life they live in their own little prisons. I got Tahashis down there and Nagashis down there, nieces and nephews, and they're prisoners in their own homes because of the money they have. If it's money that you worship, you'll never make enough. And so what I want to do as your chairman, and what I do now every day, is I live my life the way I was taught to live my life. I love and care for my people. I pray for them every day. I've experienced in my life, I've been in charge in every job that I've had. I've been a supervisor. I've been blessed enough to be able to work for the government for 15 years. I've been blessed enough to be employed since I came home. I was self-employed, and if somebody else could have ran my company, I would have had a nice company. But I built things, but I wasn't a manager. But what I saw, and that's how well I would govern. And I'm not gonna be like Uncle Danny, but I'm going to Ihana. Ihana, in the book that I read about our chief, or our real chief, Standing Buffalo, when he governed, he brought all the Teospas in, and they listened. He listened to every one of them on what the tribe should do. And we don't do that no more. We don't do that as a council, and we don't do that as execs. We have so many qualified people in each category, in each program, with masters, doctorates, 20 years of experience. I'm gonna pick on my Uncle Vine. we had a meeting yesterday and we talked about the infrastructure at the connection. Uncle Vine built the first septic system on his tribe in '63. That's a lot of years of experience. And that's the kind of people I will rely on to guide me and give me information. I ain't gonna look outwards. I'm gonna look inwards to our own people who have doctorates, who have 30, 40 years of experience. Those are the people we should be listening to. Those are the people that should be guiding us. Myself, the other execs, council, we should be all listening to our people. We forget to do that. We have forgotten to do that. You know, I'm gonna pick on another relative, Angie, that works in housing. Don't have 20 years of housing experience. Those are the kind of people that when a housing item comes up, that's the person you talk to. Not the director who just got into the job, who doesn't know how things work here. And okay, with the store, we keep talking about the store. I was on the planning commission before Angie got on there. Bruce Renville did a feasibility study. There was enough population here to have 1.5 stores. So I'm planning, we figured the half store would be the Washicha store. We'll be the 1 store. Because we have all the population and we have all the money. The Washichas don't have no money. Go to the rummage sales and see what you're gonna buy. You're gonna buy old clothes, because they don't buy clothes. If you wanna go to the best rummage sale, go to a Dakota rummage sale. They all got Nikes. They all got Jordans, especially Francis. But that's how we live. We're very blessed. All of us are blessed here. And we forget that. We forget that we're blessed. Like I keep saying, and I got it from Floyd, our vice chairman. The reason why they're making cuts is because the districts came in and said they want to reduce the deficit at the tribe. They want to help the casino. Casino gives the tribe $26 million. 4 district wanted to cut it down to 24. We didn't agree with that at Old Agency. We never supported that, because what we're saying is the same thing Eddie said at the store. Mismanagement from the beginning caused that store to fall, to stumble. And right now, mismanagement at Magic is stumbling. That improvement of the casino that we just had up there, I'm estimating to be $10 million over than what it should have cost. And the reason why I'm saying that, and I said it on DCA, the council the other day, there was $24 million borrowed to remodel that. $5 million was supposed to go to Connection. They never got it. It got spent at Magic. There was always a saving of $2.5 million, I believe, in Kitty at Magic to save. That was spent. Dakota, our almost Unshika Casino, Dakota Connection. All you bingo players, you gave $1 million to Magic last fall so they could make the bonuses for the employees. And Dakota Sioux paid off their in-house debt. The last payment was 2 weeks ago, 1.4 million. They no longer owe Magic any money. So how come our little casinos, in the hardest winter we had in years, carried its load, but our big casino stumbling? That's the kind of management that a chairman has to say, time for a change. I've been saying it on DCA, we've been saying it on DCA, but nobody's listening to us, and that's why I'm running. Because I'm not afraid, I'm not trying to be a popular guy, although I know you all love me. I'm not trying to be a popular guy. What I want to do is do what's right for the people. You are all shareholders. It was elderly board that came and stepped up and said, okay, we have 4 elderly days. We'll take half of them away, so we'll help the tribe. That's what elderlies do. And we should have accepted that, but nobody could make a decision to accept that. We should have accepted that as soon as it was offered. Because that's what elders do. They go last. Tokosias go first. That's why the recommendation was made from DCA to say, okay, we spend 8 million, is that right, Francis, on Walmart cards? 1.4 million?
Monthly?
Yearly?
2.2.
$2.2 million goes to Walmart. $2.2 million we send out into the Washichu world. Why can't we keep that here? I know we all need underwear. My Auntie Fern and Gail, they've been wearing the same underwear since we took the Walmart card, they said. They come to district and told me that. So that's why I'm sharing that. But anyway, that we need to do is have, I think 4 districts came in and said, keep all the district elderly cards here, and if they need them, they can come back and get them and they can spend them here. But we never made that choice because we still want Walmart. We love making the Washichus rich. We love making Teals rich. We did that for years with Stavix. We made Stavix rich for years. And now we're questioning why in the heck are we trying to have our own businesses. The most successful people in the United States are the Jewish community because the dollar bill turns over 7.5 times. It's a proven fact that a dollar bill turns over 7.5 times in a Jewish community. In the Indian community, the dollar bill turns over 1.5 times. So at the store, there's 45 people working, 45 families that are making money. That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's why the store was built, instead of Teals. 5 more minutes? Okay. What? Okay, Nina Wopita. I want to say one thing about the jail. They just opened up 20 beds. We've been hurting for our people to go into jail, like that's where we want them. But they had 20 beds that they did not open up until this weekend. That's how the Washichus are still treating us. So we've been spending all the money sending these people elsewhere, when they could have been right here, out on work release hopefully, or getting ready to go to treatment. That's the kind of treatment they're still treating us with. And I promise you, I will change these things. I have no problem making a decision. I have no problem listening to anybody for advice. Everybody would be, there's a word I've been hearing for 19 years that I've been home, transparency. I haven't seen it yet. How, Nina won't be there. Okay, 5 more minutes then.
Good evening, my name is Vida Dubois, and I am enrolled in Big Coulee District, and I was born and raised here at the Sisseton Reservation. My dad is a late D in Seaboy, and my mom is Luann Phelps. They've kind of pretty much wrapped up some of the concerns that I have as far as why I am running for the chairwoman position. I am the assistant public defender for the public defender's office here at the tribe, and I have been in that capacity for about 2.5 years, almost 3 years. When I started, we did have a public defender, and our budget was up to $1 million, and in the 2.5 years, it has been reduced tremendously, and I've always stayed within my budget. I've never spent anything outside of the basic necessities of our office. I work a lot with the law, the courts, our attorneys, and I am concerned for our tribal members, especially our young tribal members. And the reason why I'm so concerned is because I see firsthand what happens to our tribal members with their drug addictions, their alcohol addictions. I've seen it strip a young lady. She was married, she had children, she had a home, she had a house, she had a family. And that drug got so much control over her that she lost everything. And she went to jail for a while. And touching a little bit on, the judicial system or the detention center, I would like to see that come here after we're able to get a foundation set for a long-term treatment facility for our drugs. And the gift cards, You know, I support anything that the elderly would like to bring to us. I am going to be a strong advocate, mostly for our elders and for our people who have any kind of concerns. I want to have the open door policy. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to adapt. And I want to keep the communication between the families and the programs, council, and the executives. Thank you very much.
Okay, now who has a question?
You answer my question?
You don't think they answered it yet?
No. Well, anyway, I'll ask the question. In a general council meeting, finance, general council meeting, we've been told our audits have been fine. No major findings within our audit. Yet we're in this financial crisis right now. If anyone you become the chairperson and chairman, different types of audits, basic annual financial audit, consolidated debt audit, forensic audit, and what other one you can think of. Which one would be best to correct our financial crisis?
That's a good question, Mr. Lara. I am for good audits, thorough audits. I would strongly support the vice chairman and whatever the decision would be. I would like to see where our audits are at and where our super budgets are at. That's information that I don't have at me, but to be elected in, I would like to invite you into my office and share that information with you and address any concerns that you might have regarding that question. Thank you.
Well, I don't think none of us are running for the vice chairman's office, but as chairman, I would, of course, really promote to have an internal auditor on staff to not only watch what we're doing as the chairman, vice chairman, and secretary, but also watch the programs. Because any Washichu company, you have your CFOs, which is Greg Bennett, and then we have the political position of the vice chairmanship. But we also need a certified CFO to make sure all of these federal programs are following the federal guidelines. Basically, like the casino, having a comptroller that doesn't answer to us and probably should answer to the council. So then these things that are being done wrong will be corrected and caught. Because right now we have no checks and balances in place. I believe that's why our construction projects are in trouble. I believe that's why there's money missing. And because I believe that an internal auditor would take care of that, or a comptroller type position. So that's my answer to how you clean the inside of the tribe. And that needs to be done.
I just want to start out by saying, you know, this financial situation could have been avoided. That was part of the execs last time, which I was a part of. Franny knows I had my budget cut to lower than 2017, but there was just some issues that came up to where they couldn't actually vote on the budget because all the numbers weren't right at the time, and so they just decided to continue in resolution. But at the same time, I'm trying to fix this crisis. I believe council and the executives are doing the right thing. Is that I believe Jesse Wright, they've been meeting with you guys on trying to come up with a solution to do the cuts and everything, to where, you know, it's not the federal dollar, but it's the gaming dollar. our gaming dollar took a big hit this winter. And that's where we're trying to switch it to, what is it, 24 million? 24 million rather than the 26. And being chairman, I would go through that and do everything where you can, because I know there's cuts you can make without people losing their jobs. I know there's enough money to do that. Other than that, I'd like to work on a policy or something to where this doesn't happen again, to where, you know, I didn't like it that it got pushed on to Cheryl or Francis or Alvin where they get beat up now because there wasn't a budget passed. So I'd like to work on something where it doesn't happen again and the people can be more comfortable with the financial situation of the tribe.
Wow. We do not audit our gaming funds. Do you guys believe that? We do not audit our gaming funds. It's one of the things that I tried to do. Our finances are appalling. And I hear a lot of talk about, we're working with DCA and we're working with this and that. We've got to get people with education, experience that know what they're doing with their finances. Greg Bennett is he's a certified accountant. He's been there for years. But the underlying problem that we have with everything, with our leadership and finances, is that you have no checks and balances with council. Your council is a dictatorship. You don't dare bring up things or say things that you find. There was a comptroller at the tribe. They never filled that position in finance. So I said, what happened to the position? Where's the money that was allocated for that position? Oh, we divvied it all up, everybody got $1, $2. Do you believe that? Stuff like that is happening? You have to have checks and balances so people can speak up. So you can have a councilman that's not afraid to come forward and say, Greg Bennett, I want them finances and I want a report tomorrow. Why aren't our finances kept up to date weekly? Why is it going on 5 months before these guys finally got a financial report? They're hiding the finances, they're hiding how bad things are. If you're going to start cutting elder funds, then you better put it to a vote. Don't go to the 5 elders that go to these district meetings and ask them. Put it to a vote to all the elders. You're gonna start creating a hardship now for your elders that live off reservation? In the middle of January, you say, I live in Minneapolis, so now they have to drive back here to buy milk and groceries to save this store? Are you kidding me? There are places to cut, and we have to cut them. But we have to change our constitution, or all of this stuff means nothing. We're in this cycle of dysfunctionalism here, of removing executives. This is absolutely outrageous. The petty bull nonsense. As soon as you start questioning taking away these illegal payments at Christmas time or severance pay, oh, everything hits the fan then. Oh, you're a bad person. You put a budget on a flash drive. Absolutely ridiculous. As soon as you start meeting with the auditors and say we need to start auditing our gaming funds, oh my goodness, we gotta get this guy out of here. This is what you're working with. You cannot continuously have the same people running for council getting elected over and over again. We have term limits according to our constitution. Judge Jones threw that out. Our judges need to be elected. We can't have long-term judges like this. that are pawns of council, pawns of the legal department. We've got to change our constitution. Oglala Nation just did a secretarial election and it passed. They are changing their constitution. They're having the same problem all these years that we've had. But this dictatorship up here, you gotta have checks and balances. You gotta be able to, if I don't have rights as an executive, how do you as employees think you're gonna have, how are you gonna fare with the Washichu Tribal Supreme Court? We waste a lot of money around here with, we have a Supreme Court. We've got to change our constitution. Or the comptroller, that doesn't mean nothing. Someone on council that wants to speak up, that doesn't mean nothing. You're out the door. We have to change our election code. When I was on council, I got the absentee ballot pass off reservation. We need more voters. Let's have early voting. Let's have voting at the tribe. Why are these guys all scared to have a lot more voters out there? You know why. So these guys can stay in power. We have to change our constitution or we're back to square zero. And for your question, most of the federal funds, they're good because they're federal funds. They're audited, we have to. All of your gaming funds are not audited. All of your businesses, Dakota Western, Fuel Lake, C-Store, they are not audited. Can you guys believe that? In 2019? What kind of show are we running here? We've got to get educated, experienced people up here. You want to start taking away the elder cards and your elder benefits? You better bring them to the table and give them a voice. Have a vote on it. We have to start getting back to a democracy, not these backdoor meetings. Thank you.
Okay, back to your question, I think he has mentioned the forensic audit as one of them. Okay, most of the time, an audit will tell you where you spent your money. There'll be, some of the audits can be so vague that you do not, you'll see a number, but you don't know what that means. So, and you can also be using that same money in a different portion of the audit, doing the same thing. So having a forensic audit would be more benefit, but it wouldn't be the only thing I would ever rely on. An audit's just an audit. It just tells you what you spent. What you need is to show need, where you need the money the most, and what you can do to move the money in and meet those needs versus spending money in one spot that you just naturally have done for so long that we don't know if we need that money there anymore. That's basically how I would see it. So.
Excuse me for standing, but the court doesn't reach that far, so I don't want to be being disrespectful to my elders for standing. But to answer your question, Bill, the audits, like what Lisa said, it all depends on what type of audits you have. And most of the time you can probably have compilations done to tell you where you're spending your money at, and you won't have to pay as much for an audit. But in the same sense, it all depends on what you're looking for. When it comes to our finances, you look at it, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in today if it wasn't for the expansion of Dakota Magic. We would have been paid off the Shakopee today if we didn't go back and make that loan with Shakopee for $35 million. And we could have added on to our existing infrastructure that we have up there right now in phases. But some districts came in and they voted for it. You know, Lake Trappers they weren't in support of the, expansion at Dakota Mansion. There was a feasibility study done. One feasibility study said it wasn't feasible, the other one said it was feasible. We went with the first one down Lake Trappers, and that's why we didn't support the expansion at Dakota Mansion. The other thing is our administration building. That's where, what I mean is, to me, it's, for me being involved in politics for the last 9 out of the 10 years, coming into my first year of politics, our tribe was $9 million in debt and program support. It took us 3 years, but we finally had a balanced budget. And with the new administration building, when the new execs moved in, the new councils moved in, they brought everybody with them, and they continued to hire and hire and hire more people. There's a lot of things in that building that we don't need. There's a lot of wasted space in that building. The rotunda is one of them, because you can't get any space costs off of that. The space cost amounts went up. They probably tripled, if not doubled, for some of you program managers that are in attendance, you would know. Some programs can't afford that. That's where we take away from, helping our members. Just like the grocery store. The grocery store, I mean, it wasn't built to make money overnight. The way I look at the grocery store, like Traverse District wasn't in favor of building the grocery store. They wanted to buy Teals out, eliminate the competition. But with the council at the time, they wanted to build a grocery store. So we were outvoted. I believe Eddie was on council then, and Biculi. Those were the 3 districts that didn't want to build. They wanted to buy out Teals. But we got stuck with the grocery store. But I mean, it's our grocery store. We need to support it. We can put a face to the previous administration, previous chairman, and say it's their fault, but it's not. I mean, it's our store. What are we gonna do if we close the doors down? We're still gonna have to pay the debt back. We need to work together as a tribe, and move together. If we don't have that, we're gonna be stuck spinning our wheels. So hopefully, Bill, I answered your question, when it comes to that, like I said, I mean, it all depends on what you're looking for. But your gaming funds are being audited. Joseph and Eves is the CPA firm that audits your gaming funds. Thank you.
The committee would like to tell everybody that's here that it's the elderly board who has presented to the council, and we first suggested it when Ella was still the chairman, about taking away 3 of the elder days and just doing the big one at Christmas, and changing the age of the elder card eligibility to 62. There was no intention of cutting it down to $50 or $100. It was just changing the age. And that was our idea, because we figured that the elderly people could do their part about helping the tribe with their debt. And this coming week, there's a meeting about the budget, and we've been invited, and we're going to tell them that we're willing to do this, but other people have to make that sacrifice too. Program support, or any of those people that get that, construction management, whatever, that they should be willing to give something up to, not just the elders. So anything you've heard about the council making that suggestion, that's not true. Anyway, next question. Darlene, can you speak loud, please?
He asked a question about the audits. Okay, let's finish that with, where are the audits? Can we go to the tribal building and pick up all the audits? Can we do that? I want to know where all the money is too. And regardless of what category it's in, an audit is an audit. We need to look at that. I want counting of audits. If you can do that, I have papers here. I asked for information from this tribe. concerning WAPA. I want the WAPA audit. The tribe wouldn't give it to me. Over and over and over. Senator Daschle was a senator at that time. I asked him, because it's a federal program, you mess with federal funds, you go to federal jail. He gave it to me. Senator Daschle gave me the WAPA audit. I have it. It's quite thick. But I'm gonna bring that up to WAPA. Where's all the WAPA money going? Elderly people, low-income people. I would say, damn it, if you care about low-income people, do something about it. The WAPA fund in cash. And give me an answer. The intent of WAPA funds to lower consumer costs. Consumer. You as a group of people, I guess you're a consumer, if you sit over there. I'm a consumer. All these people working. Light bill, $250? When you make what? I don't know, $400 a week, maybe $500? You know, these are issues that have been coming a long time. I think this one says 2001. 2001, okay? Wow. I want to know where the money is and how it's spent. I heard that WAPA money got all these furniture done. Is that consumer cost? I don't think so. No? That's before all you young people got into office, okay? When you come audit, it's nice words are nice words, okay? I appreciate that. But I want paper. Just like Senator Daschle gave me paper. I want to look at that. If you have audits, can we get a copy? Each one of you, tell me something, you know?
The audits, you should be able to, I don't know who told you you couldn't get them or you couldn't see them, but I know when I was on council, each one of the council members got them. We take them to our districts. I know I took them to our district meeting. The tribal, our Berlin, the recording secretary, you should have a copy of them. I don't know who's telling you no, but you should be able to see them. I know I brought them to my district, Randy brought them to his. You should have been able to see them at your district. They should have a copy of them. And then as for the WAPA money, that's a specific we could probably give to the next audit. Say to give us a breakdown on the WAPA funds to where it's being allocated and who's spending it and on what. But as of right now, it's just a big generalized audit to where it's not gonna be into just one account that they're looking at. They might pull a couple of samples from a WAPA account, a couple of samples from a gaming account, and then go from there.
I want to add one more thing. I'm 78 years old. I always thank God I'm still here. And I have to account, you know? But I want to live just like all people do. A quality of life, okay? Do I go to Watertown? I used to. That's the other thing. I want to go to Walmart. I want to go to Watertown again, you know? I don't go there. Do I go to Fargo? No, I don't go over there either. Do I go to Las Vegas? No, I don't go over there either. Yeah? So this, I don't know, you know? Is playing with money? Are we playing with money? When I was a little girl, we used to play store, you know? Cut up paper, you know? Are we still doing that? Playing store? Playing whatever, you know? I think we are. When you don't have paper. Paper. And then we're the white men, okay? Because we have a lot of paper. That's the way I look at it. Each time. You know, you hear a lot of stories from people struggling, you know? Don't you people do that? Don't they talk to you and ask you for help or something, you know? Probably not, you know? I think people, you know, treat us with respect, okay? Well, don't help her, don't help him, because we don't like him. It's not about judgment, who did what, who didn't do. It's doing the right thing. You talked about policy. Enforcement. How do you enforce your policy? My Uncle Jesse, okay? If he goes and he does something, you know? You say, okay, we're gonna enforce the policy. Okay, Jesse, you're gone. Do we do that? We don't do that. It's not a judgment on nobody. It's the legal basis to how any business, any tribe, it's how they do. I think people have that right. People have, and that's the other issue, you know? How many of you protect the rights of your people, whoever they are? They talk about ICWA. They're gonna challenge ICWA. Bird Hirsch, you know? I have the original court case here, Bird Hirsch. They're gonna challenge ICWA. And there are things happening within this tribe. Children being taken away by their white fathers. Fine, we have ICWA, don't we? See, all these laws that are passed, they have a judicial review, I would think, you know? And here we are, Sisseton Wahpeton, protecting the rights of people. We're struggling. Like I said, the house is on fire. The house is on fire, okay? Who's gonna put it out? Thank you.
Let me see if I can remember everything here. When you're talking about the elderly and the elderly coupons, as the elderly board knows, I'd show up to their meetings when I was the tribal secretary. I'd be more than happy to come to the meetings, being a tribal chairman, to help whatever I can with them, or the tribal secretary. ICWA, I know it's a big issue, being the tribal secretary, working for child protection. It's a very big issue right now. I know what you mean. It's like a daily where kids are getting sent to non-native families, and when there's native families available. As for the elderly coupon, Martha touched base on that, on what the elderly board decided. I like to say a good thing about the elderly coupon. When I was tribal secretary, started using the PRAMS program through TEAB, and then getting put in office. That was my first goal, was to try and find a way of, you know, because the schools were always for senior class trips and stuff like that. And I brought it to council, and I was happy they passed it, but I was able to deduct some of that money to give to the schools for I'm not against going to senior trips or nothing, but we were able, with the elderly cards, to give TEAB, I think, did you see the last one, Tony? $3,500? It's about $3,500 a month that TEAB gets because of these elderly cards. And it was just simple implementation to where it offset, where it can actually go back into the budget of the tribe. Thank you.
Darlene, back to transparency. you should be able to go to your district. A lot of people don't like going to the districts. You can't go to my district because the door's closed. There might be someone there for an hour, 2 hours a week, maybe 3 or 4. You should be able to walk in to the tribal secretary's office and we can set this up. You have two full-time tribal recording secretaries. You should be able to go in there at any time and receive the audits, WAPA audits, policies, procedures, court cases, should be available and will be available if elected. If they started auditing gaming funds, they just did it because they weren't. But back to the elderly cards. We cannot be creating hardships for our elders and making them spend more money for their food. I don't like hearing the, blaming Washichu Walmart or blaming this. Let our elders choose where they want to shop and what they need. Can they buy a winter coat at the crossing store? Can they buy socks, underwear, what they need? Can they buy their grandkid a toy that they need? This is not right. And if this was going to happen, it should have been a vote by the elders. It could have been on the ballot. We have to get back to a democracy of listening to our people. And the 10 or 12 people that go to district meetings that are making motions, flying all over the place, that's not a democracy. That is not a democracy. I'm in favor of looking at changing our tribal government. As you know, the tribal district system that we have is very flawed. We've got rampant indictments and embezzlement, been going on for years. We need to look at changing our system. There's been talk for years about going to a quarterly general council meeting. But to change a lot of these things, we have to change our election code. We have to make it easy for our people to vote so we can make that 30% quorum to change our constitution, to make these changes. It's like we live in the 1930s. You live in Bakuli and you have to drive all the way to Bevlin to vote. And when people vote the last 4 years, their votes don't count no more. Your executives are thrown out the door in a minute if they don't agree with your council in your districts. We've got to have checks and balances. We've got to elect your judges. And one of the main issues that I see with all of this is our tribal legal department. We have to hire attorneys with real world experience who are not political. I know some of the things that happened the last couple of weeks. If it would have happened to me, if I was in office, there would have been charges to remove me the next day waiting for me. We have to change our election code. Let our people vote. We got to change our constitution. We got to bring democracy and a voice back to the people because they do not have it. Let's look at changing our finances and reorganizing. Like Francis said, there are some programs that need to be reorganized. And I talked to Mike Salvage last night. Some of these programs, and as you know, when these guys get elected, this position's created, this one's created, this one over here. It's ridiculous. We've got to put our foot down and look at reorganizing and have a professionally run tribe. And we do have a lot of educated people out there. I've talked to them before I ran before. Guess what they said? Doctorates, master's degree. Oh, no way, Jose, I'm not getting involved in that. They know what's going on here. And one more thing I wanted to say, and the reason I did throw my name in this time is because I think you do have a council, majority of the council that will go along with these changes with good leadership. And when you don't, if we didn't have good leadership, I promise you, I wouldn't be running. I wouldn't waste my time. I think we got enough new people, as you know, about 80% turnover the last election, which is good. So we need to move forward and we have to start reorganizing. I think we can do it. But to fix all of the dysfunctionalism and corruption, I think let's fix our election code. Let's make it easy for our people to vote. And we can weed out all of the issues, a lot of them that we're having. Thank you.
I haven't dealt with WAPA since I was at the planning department. From my understanding, it's a contract with the Corps of Engineers from the energy that is created from the power plant on the Big River. And because they only create so much energy from the water, they utilize that to give to the tribes energy assistance on some of our large, the way that the contract was done in the past was that they based it on the larger businesses like the casinos or Dakota Western or whoever used the most energy. And then off that energy, they give a portion of that WAPA money to the tribe based on that amount of energy used. You could change that contract. It is not just I think they set it up that way because they thought that was the most economical way to get the money. And then it goes into an account at the planning department. And from my understanding of it, we never used it. It just sat in the account. We just collected the money. And that was the only thing that I recall on the WAPA. Over the years, I'm not sure what they've done with it in the past. I suggested at one time using it for wind energy development. We didn't even have to buy that much with the money that we had in the WAPA account. We could have just paid for the study and had it done with, and we could have already had a couple of wind towers built. You know, at least the study done. Now, I don't even know if the study has even been finished. I mean, that was back when I was in planning before, so I don't know. Maybe it's done. I know that we had conducted wind energy maps with the USGS, and we had the locations throughout where the Coteau was, and so we knew the prime sites where wind energy could be developed. But then you have to worry about the eagles too. We have even larger eagle population now. Last week, maybe a week and a half ago, I went through Dublin and I saw 5 eagles. And it's very rare for me to see that many. Usually I see maybe 1 or 2. But I saw 5 of them. So, we have to, if wind energy is the thing to go, there was none from what I've seen in the past is that there was one site that was supposed to be started in Summit. It has not taken place. They probably broke a few things on the ground, but they have not built anything yet. Solar energy, I heard that's going to be coming to the tribe. That's a good idea. But like I said, that's all I know of the WAPA money. Can it be used for something else, for what you're talking about, being for the individual homes? It can be. It can be done. We can rearrange the tribe has the option to do that. We can do anything with that WAPA money, because we're entitled to it. And that's basically all I know about WAPA.
Let me add something here. Reality, and the reality is, we assume all elderly have bundles of money. They do not. Low income people, they don't either. My cousin, you know what she gets a month? $400. How many of you live on $400 a month? No? That's the reality of how you use WAPA money. Why? Because you care for your people.
I understand.
That's it.
It's unfortunate to hear that, a lot of the members, like, Darlene and whoever else is talking about not being informed, because every district has a representative on these boards and committees that should be sharing this information at their district meetings. Whether that information gets back, I'm unaware of it, but I know, I can only speak on behalf of Lake Traverse District. Where some board members, they do come back and give their reports. Sometimes you have executives that want to hurry up and leave, so they'll adjourn the meeting, and some board members can report. But to answer Darlene's question, where your WAPA monies went, it went for a land purchase. They purchased, $1.3 million worth of land. That's where your WAPA monies went to. We could probably be in trouble for spending that money that way, because that's not an intended use of that land, for that WAPA account. Back in 2011, I had a motion on the floor, but it was defeated, to place a portable wind tower in all 7 communities of our districts and 3 at our casinos. It came to a vote and it was defeated, because somebody came in from the back of the room and started questioning, where are we gonna get parts at, where are we gonna do this at? But our planner that was in planning at the time, which was Hazen DeMars, he had all that information, but council still shot it down. So yes, we could have had wind towers. Solar is the way to go, but if we do that, remember, you gotta keep in mind, you're not gonna get as much WAPA monies back if you go to solar and if you go to wind, because you're not gonna be relying so much on the big electrical companies anymore. So I mean, that hopefully that explains to you, Darlene, on your question on where your WAPA dollars went. It went to a land purchase. And I can't remember the other questions that you were asking, Darlene, if you could repeat them. You were asking about the elderly cards. Okay, so keep in mind why the elderly cards were created. The IRS is still looking at ways to tax your elderly card. And the reason why that motion was made to send your cards to the Dakota Crossing is because then it becomes a direct general welfare. If you continue to get your cards and go to Walmart, buy clothes, shoes, tires, whatever, then that becomes taxable. And the IRS is still looking at ways to tax those elderly coupons. So hopefully that explains a little bit more on, why the motion was made for you guys to go to Dakota Crossings. The other part too was, the motion was made for the off-reservation members to go to the grocery store as well, when they come back for casino days. That was to help alleviate some of that too, so they're not being taxed. Because like I said, even though the General Welfare Exclusion Act has been passed, the IRS is still looking at ways to tax your elderly coupon. Because the intended purpose of the coupon was to provide general welfare to our members. We understand that, there's elders out there that are taking care of grandkids. We understand that. But you also got to take into consideration who's going to pay your taxes if the tax, the IRS comes in next. Darlene?
Many people say this. I think they mean it, I mean it. I would say, I'm proud to be who I am. The Sisseton-Wahpeton, my grandfather's great-grandfather, they all came from here. They brought me here, okay? But, under treaty, it, that when the federal government tells us something, we all back down. We're a sovereign nation here. We're a sovereign nation, just like they are. All of Sioux country, sovereign nation. If you believe in that, why would you let the IRS tax us? When in the Constitution, United States Constitution says Indians not tax. Have you ever told what? Indians not tax. You can't tax us. Are you going against your Constitution? It's a legal challenge at best, see? But you gotta protect our rights. And somebody said, get lawyers that know how. They know the system. Protect our rights. If we're gonna go to Walmart, I say, I wanna go, so I can fight the United States government. Never mind fighting my tribe, you know? I wanna go fight them. United States government. They owe me, they owe my ancestors.
Well, they also have to take into consideration too is, you know, that money that bleeds out into the Walmart community, Walmart doesn't contribute nothing back to us. You know, you for prime example, you look at the Head Start. The parent committee can only do so many fundraisers and bring in so much funds for the kids that are graduating for their bikes. The last 2 years, tribal council took it out of their travel budget to pay for those bikes. Do you think Walmart would have gave us a break? They probably should have because we spent so much money there, but they won't. You know, but yet you go down to Walmart and you look at their billboards there and look at all the contributions they make to the Washichu entities, but nothing for our tribe. You know, and we want to talk about being sovereign, you know, Donovan brought it up earlier, you know, about our attorneys, get some real world attorneys. Yeah, we can get a real world attorney, but are we going to be able to pay for them? You know, that's the biggest question is, can we afford to pay for them? Because the attorneys we have now, they're working for beans compared to the real world attorneys. But I mean, we also, you know, we have in with former legal counsel, Andrew Small. Him and his wife were tax attorneys. So I mean, that's something that we can look at. You know, maybe bring them on board so they can argue these issues. Because if we really want to be truly sovereign, then I would say let's be sovereign to the fullest and let's control our buying power as well. Because a lot of these companies out there, you look at the issues that we have with them, they'll gladly come and take our money, but they won't give us nothing back when we want donations for Head Start bikes, maybe for our 4th of July powwows, maybe to, you know, to pay for the cookies and stuff that are here tonight. All the companies that we're doing business with, they should be able to contribute back to us with the money that we give them yearly. But we don't get it. That's where our grocery store comes into play with buying power. That's the intent behind it, was to, you know, look at Teal's. Is he from our area? No, he's not. But that Teal's grocery store, before we built ours, his grocery store was the #1 making revenue business out of all 9 of his grocery stores that he owns.
Oh, the one thing about WAPA that we asked the vice chairman last Monday at our districts, and I keep saying this, we're lucky we got a decent number, about 40 people that show up at our districts, and sometimes 50. But I keep saying that to our members, come to the meetings, and then you can hear these things. The vice chairman said that there's about everything in WAPA, when I was on planning, there was 900,000. And that's when Hazen Lemire, instead of DeMars, Hazen Lemire was in charge of that. We told him to build 1 windmill at Magic, 1. Get it from Walmart or Menards, but put 1 windmill up there to help the casino with their energy costs. Still hasn't been done. So then there's family windmills that could be put up with WAPA money. Our communities, the housing communities, can have 1 windmill that could be tied into these homes. Little simple projects that are doable. The big project of WAPA money, where $1 million a windmill is not doable because of our jurisdiction problems. We'll never waive our jurisdiction, and a Washichu company will never come and spend $1 million per windmill and $1 million per line to install it, with worrying about the jurisdiction problem. So until that, we lost 3 times the opportunity to have windmills. Well, now they're building them north of Summit, right across the road from where our land is, the best land in the nation. It's been tested numerous times, where we could have had windmills. If we just would have changed and compromised and did something with our jurisdiction problems. And we could all benefited from this wind generation that has passed us by. So, well, now we get about $100,000 a year for WAPA. And that's all we have now, $100,000. It's been spent, like you said, on land. Well, land's important also, trying to get our base back. So hopefully someday we'll again be a closed reservation, or that's the goal of buying all this land back. And with that land buying coming back and us getting our boundaries back, which the tribe is looking into, then we can identify ourselves as a true Dakota tribe again. But until those things get all remedied, which takes time, and a lot of us ain't gonna see it, we gotta keep trudging away on that. So these are the things that gotta be fought now. And it's good to keep looking back to remember how we were treated, and looking back to see where we come from. But in the meantime, we gotta go forward. We gotta go forward. We have the best opportunity for gaming. We gotta fix that here, and we gotta utilize that. Only having $100,000 in WAPA, but right now on the north of Sisseton, they're building a substation off that WAPA line, because when this windmills get put in place, the only lines in the United States, electrical lines that can handle it, are the WAPA lines. So hopefully if that happens, our revenue goes up. And it goes across our reservation, north to south. So there's potential more revenue coming in on WAPA because of what they're doing with the windmills south of us. So that's sad, but it's all been spent, but it's spent on a good thing, land. That's what we all should want, is land back. And that's very critical for us to be who we are by the tribe owning more and more land. The problem with our economy is what we did to ourselves. 4 years ago, when we had Cobell, we were all happy. Everything was going good. We were hiring everybody. And we're still like that today, but there's no Cobell. We had 4 years of the same spending from Magic, from the Gaming Institute going into the tribe, but no more money. Now we're finally hit the bottom of the barrel, where the tribes are making cuts. I think the vice chairman said he made a cut of $500,000, $600,000. We're asking the casinos to make cuts, not with employees' bonuses, but small things. There was an error made when the tribe gave the employees at the casino a $3 raise. Well, they gave it to everybody, Washichus and all. That wasn't the intent of the motion. And I think Francis made that motion, right, Francis, to give them a raise? I'm not too sure. But the Washichus got the raises, which should have been through Taro money, that only our tribal members got raises. But because the Washichus out there, if we try to go in the white man's world and get a job, you think any of us will get hired? Not very likely. We're lucky to get hired by the government, because they gotta have, in every 10 tables, there gotta be one Indian sitting there with dark skin. But the thing is that, and the other thing that's coming is the fact that they're not firing nobody, they're freezing all these positions that were hired when we had money. And the thing is that we still have money. We still have, I believe we were told $113 million came into the casinos last year. On a bad year, we're being operated, something that we can fix. We're not operating properly. Like Eddie said, we weren't operating properly. We had no qualified management out there operating the casino for a year. Now we do. Now they're paying their own bills. 45 people are working. All good things going on. And that's what we gotta look at. That's what we gotta be proud of. That through these little things, we can get better. We can't keep looking at everything that's Shicha. Everything Shicha. We're all Shicha here. We can't think like that. Even though we probably are, like Auntie said. But the thing is we're good. All other tribes in this reservation, in this state, envy what we have. And we should be proud of that. We should be proud of who and what we have. And I agree with Donovan. We got a new council in place, new faces that are gonna think differently. And that's what we need to do. We gotta have accountability with these new faces, and they're already doing that. And that's what started this whole thing with this race. Accountability on who and what you are, on your word. That's what we're running on, who and what we are, and what we want to do for our people. Tancha isn't selected through colleges or anything like that. Tancha is elected by their people because the people believe that person has the compassion and the love of his people to not use Shicha, all of them. Not even the ones that are doing wrong. As a Xavier Chasta, you don't go around, you Shicha on everybody. As a Xavier Chasta, you stand up for that park ranger that's on the street and you treat him like he's the best person in the world. That's the chairman that you want. Somebody that loves and cares for his people and will always do what's right for his people. And that's the kind of chairman that I will be. I will come to this place every month. I'll come and eat here like I do now. I'll go to every district every month and face even Emily Swim, where all my relatives are, that you feature me up there all the time. I'm still gonna go up there. And I'm even gonna go down and help Francis as much as I can at Lake Traverse. Do what I can do for him down there. They're just Unshika down there. So Wopida, for listening to all of this tonight, we need to be proud of who we are. And we can't be proud of who and what we are if we're always yokshicha about everything. Feeling bad about how we are as people. As a sun dancer, I'm proud to be alive every day. I'm proud of my family, I'm proud of my people. And I'll always be like that, no matter what happens on the 28th. Wopi, Padamino.
Well, Ms. Pipeboy, I want to go back to transparency. I would request full information from each department about the WAPA account, where the money was spent. I would like to ask the CFO, Greg Bennett, and I would like to speak with the Vice Chairman, Floyd Kirk Jr., as to where the money had went. I am in support for solar systems. I am in support for wind energy systems. I am a little bit leery about the wind energy just because I am afraid that it can ruin or disrupt the natural habitat within our wild animals, within the landscapes, but I don't disagree with it. I would support whatever the districts wanted to bring back and whatever the districts wanted to move on. As far as the ICWA goes, you mentioned ICWA. I would be, again, collaboratively working with the Secretary's office, Mara Thompson, and to see what we're doing with the ICWA, if there's an ICWA officer, and if they need more attention to that one complaints issue, I would work collaboratively with them. And the elderly cards, I think that would have to come from the elderlies and what the elderly would decide, and I would support that as well. Thank you.
I have a question here. Came to Larson and Mr. White here. They say I talked to the previous place or church. They say our reservation is closed. And that they have been closed for quite some time. Now, everybody involved. And how would one of you two go about that? And what will be the cost and the danger to us? Like your answer first.
Your question is about closing
A
the reservation again?
be closed boundaries, or is it open? And if it is open, how would we go about it getting closed so it helps everybody? What would be the cost and the dangers to our people?
You just want us to answer?
Yeah, well, you'd answer first and then Donovan. Okay, then everybody, but I would like you to go first.
Okay, just before Jesse answers the question, I'd like to play a little commercial. We want to thank all the candidates for donating money to buy the lunch for you all and to pay for the cleanup crew. So thank you guys.
Oh, down here. We are open reservation because of the Dakota court case. And right now the tribe actually is researching and maybe even hired I'm not sure if lawyers, but lobbyists in Washington to try to get us through Congress. And that's the easiest and best way to get our boundaries back. But they'll never be done with a Republican in power. But that's the quickest way to get our land back, and that's how other tribes have gotten their recognition back. We're glad that we didn't lose our status as a tribe, but the open boundaries is what hurts us. We can't do what Pine Ridge is doing out there and saying we don't want the governor on our tribe because we don't own all the land, you know. And it's a shame that this happened, but it is fixable. But it's a tough way to fix it. We got to go to lobby with Congress and get it done through them. And we thought we had a good chance with Obama, but he had Republican Congress in place. We need a Democratic Congress in place to get that done. And hopefully that'll be this next time around if Trump keeps getting everybody angry. But that's the only way, that the easiest way is going through Congress and getting recognized that our boundaries be given back to us. Okay?
We talked about this a few years ago, and there was a real good court case. Lorraine, you'll have to help me. There's a good court case that we won at the Supreme Court in Nebraska, where the tribe started to tax the Wasichus on our land. And the Supreme Court ruled that we could. That was the case that we were looking at. And we wanted to use settlement funds to go after that and use that case to look at getting our sovereignty, getting our boundaries back. It's a real good case. Remember that, Lorraine? Now you're talking about settlement funds. Again, we don't have a democracy. Our settlement funds were spent here, there, everywhere. I don't think we even know. No transparency. They're still talking about settlement funds. But one of the things we have to be careful of is we have to have due process. There's a case right now in South Dakota where Wasichu got fired at one of the tribal schools. And guess usually these cases, if you remove an exec or whatever it is, it gets thrown out. The state took this case. Some of you might have seen it on Facebook. This could hurt us. We have to treat our people fairly. Not just our people, but our employees. They might not fall under our Constitution, but when they appeal this stuff, it goes to tribal court. So we're exposing ourselves when we don't give people due process. We don't treat people right, our employees. We better watch that case. One of the things, real quick, I wanted to mention, something Francis brought up about he was talking about the elder cards. We have to use them at crossings or we're gonna get taxed. Are any elders on here on disability, social security? You must not have reported when you do your report to social security, when they call you once a year, you must not have told them you get a Dakota crossing card, because I take care of my uncle's money and I pay his bills, and I reported that. And guess what happened? They cut his social security by $100. So now he's gotta live on $600 now a month to pay all his bills. This is a crisis now gonna be for our elders, like Darlene was saying. We got some trying to live on $400 a month. So we need good attorneys. We need good business people to come back to council and say, how are we gonna do this? Pay our elders in food? Pass out food at the rotunda maybe? Attorneys would be able to tell us this, but now it's hurting our people. The elder card is hurting our people. It doesn't matter where you shop. They took his money, so now he's getting $600 a month to pay all of his bills. So we're in a crisis. It don't matter if it's Crossing or Walmart. They're doing it now. We have to address that immediately. How can our people live off of $400, $500, $600 now? Their government's taking that back. We need good attorneys, Darlene. Good attorneys. And I think it's hogwash to say that we can't get good attorneys for $100,000. I guarantee you the state's attorney in town, who probably have a lot of work to do, don't make that. Good attorneys, they know the law. We can get good attorneys, but we're in a crisis now. We need good attorneys to be able to work with us and fight this, so he can get his $100 back and we can pay him elsewhere with food, or, you know, they can go eat every day at, you know, Crossings or wherever it is, somehow. But we have to be able to pay our elders a different way now. And we're not getting good sound advice, because I even heard you can even, if you have a complaint, you go to Crossings and something was outdated or something happened, they'll give you a Visa card. Oh, I'm sure Uncle Sam would love to hear that too. So we really need to get good attorneys. Start advising council on issues. And it can't be politically involved. We can't be having attorneys with conflict of interest. When you have that, when you have family they're representing, they start representing their family and not what's best for the Oyate. And I'm sorry that people think that I'm Sicha. You need a businessman to run this tribe with common sense and you know, going to Sundance and going around, and it's a great thing. You've got to be able to make decisions, and they're tough decisions that have to be made, and you need the education experience to make them decisions. We cannot leave our future generations with staggering debt. Could Trump push something through where it affects our casinos? Yes, he could. He does not like Indians, tribes. He does not like Indian casinos. What's our fallback on it? I am a proponent of hemp. I think that we could make money with hemp, and if elected, I would like to fast track that project. North Dakota did pass hemp. We have land in North Dakota, but we need good attorneys to work with us. South Dakota did not pass hemp, but we have land in North Dakota. We can fast track that. With the solar project, getting us into $40 million on this with people that aren't qualified, who fraudulently say they have college degrees and LLCs, we can't be going down that road anymore. We need to have qualified people. You need to have attorneys that can look at your qualifications and say, did you graduate from here? Do you actually have a nonprofit in California? Those things should be vetted by your attorneys. When council's making them decisions, they should be able to see that. Was this all done? Is this everything in place? That's how that's done in the government. Everything's watched, and we're on autopilot and been for quite a few years. And let's look at making these cuts here and there, but let's get your people involved, let's get your elders involved, let's let them vote on some of these things. We need to get back to being a democracy. And I've been to many district meetings where there's 10 or 12 people there, so I don't want to hear there's 50 people going to these district meetings, because it's not happening. Unless you're having a meal, or it's a Halloween party, or a Easter party. We really need to bring credibility back to our tribe. And I haven't seen any tribes that say, oh geez, I wish we were all Sisseton-Wahpeton. But we can do that. I think we have a good council with some common sense, and we can start making these changes. But we really have to address the elder cards and Social Security, because it's happened. It's happened now. So we need to have good attorneys and find a way to get our elders that $100 back that if they haven't lost, they're going to lose. Thank you.
They passed the hemp in the Farm Bill in January. So federally, it's legalized throughout the United States. They haven't done something with the USDA though. I think they had to do a couple more regulations. So technically, we don't need the state of South Dakota's approval. We can do it on our own. That's why some states are doing it already on their own. Because it's not on state land, it's on tribal land. The other thing is, like the regulations, that's where you would have to wait for the USDA to come out with some of this stuff, because that's what's holding some of it back, is what I read on that.
To answer Greg's question about the boundaries, it all depends on who you ask, if we have boundaries and if we don't have boundaries. The federal government recognizes us as a reservation. The state of South Dakota depends on who you ask. Sometimes they recognize that we don't have boundaries, sometimes they recognize we do have boundaries. When it comes to our tax agreement, we have no boundaries. When it comes to our gaming compact, we do have boundaries. It's referenced in each one of the compacts that we have with them. Will it hurt us? It might not. We'll never know. But like what Jesse said, yes, we do have attorneys. You know, our legal staff is looking into hiring a firm, not just one attorney, an actual firm, to look at getting our boundaries back. So they're still looking out there, but the way that they want to lean towards is Yankton's, who just got their boundaries back. So we want to reach out to that firm to see if they could benefit us. But the bad part about it is that's the firm that kind of threw our tribe under the bus to get Yankton's boundaries back. So it all depends on which way we want to go. We talk about, you know, Donovan talked about taxation. Yes, we can tax the white man when it comes time to the land that they're, you know, that it's within our original boundaries. But I mean, at the same time, we got tribal members complaining that because we're taxing the white man right now for land issues. You know, so I mean, it's a double-edged sword. But yes, we can make it. It's not going to be very much. You look at the county commission, you look at the city council, look at what they operate off of compared to the tribe. The tribe, you know, that was reported earlier, you know, last year the casinos made $113 million. Our city council and county commission, they'll be lucky if they see that in 5 years total. So I mean, you know, the only good thing that would come out of it is that we would only have one police department. But can we afford to have one police department to cover 1,755 square miles? No, we can't. We're undermanned right now. So I mean, there's good and there's bad, you know, when it comes to the boundaries. But it would be nice to have our boundaries back, yes. We just had a meeting with judicial today. Lorraine was in the meeting. This was an issue that we talked about today in a judicial meeting. You know, right now, the judge recognizes that we have boundaries. Our employment laws that we have, you know, when I say employment laws, I shouldn't say laws, because it's an application process when it comes to the gaming anybody that goes to the gaming commission that's a non-Indian, if you read the fine print on the top of the application, and if you're non-Indian, when you fill out that application and sign it, you subject yourself to our civil and our criminal laws of our tribe to get a gaming application, to get a gaming license. So it's in there and it's recognized there, but like I said, it all depends on who you ask, if we have boundaries or not. So yes, it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing, because right now, financially, there's no way we'd be able to provide all the services that we can, that the smaller towns have. You still have to keep those, forms of government available.
I remember we were tackling that issue with the borders. I think, Franny, am I right, where legal was looking into it and there was a historians that they're looking into to look through all that stuff?
Yes.
And I understand your situation where everything's confused, where, like how Franny's saying, but we are fighting to where it's more solid, to where we know we have our borders. I remember that was probably like a month or two before last term that they were talking about our borders.
Greg, that's a really good question. And if any of you know who my late dad was or is, that hit home. That really hits home to me as far as jurisdiction goes. And I'm glad Diane DeRoge is here, because she would be somebody that I would work very, very closely with and collaboratively with on trying to restore our reservation boundary lines. The judge does, I'm in the legal field, and the judge does recognize our boundary lines to an extent. I guess it kind of depends on which side you're sitting on. That to me gets me going. I would continue to work with our legal department instead of trying to hire more attorneys. I would work with the attorneys that we do have, and I would expect them to work with other tribes who had got their jurisdiction boundaries back. That's what I would be expected of them, or from them.
I'm Sota Iya Ye Yapi. I apologize for being late, but I was at a meeting that I had scheduled prior to this forum. So my name is Crystal Owen. I'm from Topinawa District, and I'm guessing that the question was about should we have our boundaries back. And I'm a little bit, have a little different point of view in that I believe that it's going to take a huge fight. And I believe that if our people are ready for that kind of fight, then we should, and I think we've been ready for this fight. We need leadership, we need somebody who can take up that fight. And I don't believe that our own attorneys can do that for us. I believe that we need to have our own specialized attorneys. And that's that's where I would go with this issue, is to have a specialized attorney, somebody who knows what we're up against, because our boundaries were abolished. Yes, the federal government does recognize them, but it's going to take very serious work to get them back. It's going to take a lot of hard work, and it's going to take a lot of money. And so when we talk about getting our boundaries back, we better be prepared. We better have a strategic plan. We better make sure all the membership is on board with it, and we all have to give it that good energy so that when we try to fight for it, that we know what we're saying when we're sitting up there at the table. So thank you.
Okay, somebody else got a question? You had your turn. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I'm elderly, and like I said before, I'm thankful I have good health, okay? There are many elderly who do not. You're building I really don't know what it is, but I assume it's a residential assisted living, right? No? Is it residential assisted living, assisted care? Is that what you're building, or are you building apartments? Who's gonna answer here?
Apartments.
Is it apartment?
Apartments.
Darlene, they're apartments, they're not assisted living.
You need a center, you know? Residential, assisted care. Just like all the shooters have out there. You know that the elderly people, they need the help, okay? All of us who are elderly, don't stand up. The balance in your ears, sometimes it's off. You have to grab the table. There are elderly people that need that help. And they need the companionship of people around them. They don't need to live in an apartment. Who are you building that for? All you guys or what? You need an elderly center, residential care, and assisted care. That's what you need. It's very costly to be in a nursing home, as they used to call it. But this is not right. Who made that decision to make apartments? See, you're talking, you're hypocrites. Talking about things, oh, we ask people and do. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. But for me, I say residential care, assisted living. There are people here that need that facility. What are they going to do? They're in their homes right now, waiting to go somewhere where people will help them. Is that how we make assumptions about elderly people? That they are all like you, they run around, walk around and do whatever? No, they're not like that. They need help to live and do every day. All of you are gonna get there. Who's gonna help you? That's a good question. Who's going to help you when you get old? You know? Your children? You better change what you do. Residential care, assisted living. Bring in all these elderly that are out there, wanting to be with people their own age, so they can wake up in the morning, go out to the center, see people they know, talk, be with them, go back to their room, do whatever. No. Those that need help, medication, walking, whatever else, they need that care. You're denying them that.
I would like to, I guess, be the first to answer this question because it's a topic that has been on my radar for the last probably month, or when they started the build up there, when they started moving that $1 million dirt around. I've been very curious, and I did my own little research, and I asked those questions, Darlene, because they need to be answered. This Thursday, we're having the SWO Tribal Elderly Board, Human Services Board, the Reservation Planning Commission have invited, upon the request of the Tribal Elderly Board here, they asked that planning assist them in helping to bring Mr. Dave Flute, the Tribal Secretary of Tribal Relations from Pierre, out to have a conversation about assisted living, because assisted living is very important. So are apartments for the younger people, the ones who have families. They don't have, I mean, all these issues are important. And when what happened was with that elderly building, what happened is when I found out what was going on, I asked these questions. What happened is that nobody really knows about that building at this point. The last meeting I went to in Tribal Council, I went with those contractors, and we heard the story, we heard the concerns of the subcontractors. And last December, there was a motion made by the prior council it didn't say to build, but it said to investigate, to look for a plan to build an elderly, homes for the elderly, an apartment complex, to build some homes. So what happened is they started building with no money. There's no money in the budget, nothing. They said Vice Chairman is gonna go, and I guess he had a big idea. He wants to go and get $15 million credit from the bank. Who does that? That is not the way we operate our business. I'm very upset about that because that money belongs to each and every one of us. Anytime we spend money, maybe we could set a limit over $1 million. Council, you have to have a vote. Not just a district vote, but a reservation-wide vote if we want to spend that money. That money belongs to us. So now they're looking for money to build it. The prior plan was to have tax credit build it. So if tax credits came in and built that elderly apartment complex, the rent would be less than $200 is what they said. It would be down to zero depending on your income. You can live there with zero income. And that's what our elders need. They need a place where they're not going to pay. Now all of a sudden, there's no tax credit. Our vice chairman has to go to the bank and get a line of credit so they can build this because they said, we already put $2 million invested into that. $1 million in dirt and the other $1 million was in the walls or whatever, the structure of it. So we already bought that. So what happens is that they're gonna have all the project going on with no tax credit. And guess what, how much to rent? I'm an elder, I'm 55, I'm 58. So guess how much if an elder wanted to live in there, how much would I have to pay? Well, first they said you have to pay $800 because they're not tax credit, we have to get our money back. Then they said $700, then they said $600. The last figure I heard was $500 a month that the elders would have to pay. The issue came up, how it turned from an elder complex to a regular housing place for people to go, is that they said our elders cannot afford that. We might as well just open it up and let it be an apartment complex. These things, this is the state that our tribe is in. We're making these foolish decisions when we don't even ask anybody. We don't let the people know what is going on. This can't keep happening. You and I, all of us, we have a right to know what our tribal government is doing. What are they up to? Why aren't they telling us? Why are these projects so secret when we do have $4 or $5 million set aside for a jail that we need? We're paying the bills on this jail in town. There's a lot of things that have to happen. And so Darlene, I hope that you would come to that meeting on Thursday. It is going to be held in the Tribal Council Chambers. Human Services, SWO Tribal Elderly, initiated this meeting, I believe, last year. And probably 6-7 years ago, they started to talk about this. This issue has been on the table. Now, it just started coming up last year about care for our elder, because we had heard rumors that our elders are not getting the best care over there at Tekakwitha. So I called that director myself, and I wanted to know how many complaints, how many tribal members we have, because when we want to know something, we have to get on the phone and we have to ask questions. Sometimes those questions are not easy to ask, but we have to do our own research. And so this SWO Tribal Elderly Board, they wanted answers to these questions. So now we're going to bring in Mr. Flute, Secretary of Tribal Relations, and we're going to ask him the important questions. Is there a moratorium to build assisted living, elderly home, assisted living on the reservation? Is there a moratorium for that? Will the state help us with any money? How about Medicare, Medicaid? Is the governor going to let us build? If we do have a facility, is she going to let us build them? These are very important questions that we have to ask that are on the table. So I hope I answered some of those questions, but one thing leads to another.
Back in 1992, I think it was, 91, some of you probably weren't here, but the issue came up, you know, nursing home, they said, nursing home. I was on the council then. The issue came up. The state, I said, the state always has you like this, yeah? They're always choking you, the state. Do what the state said, And I think the council agreed, you know, they said, the state said, you cannot have a nursing home because you have Tekakwitha. And the distance is distance, okay? You cannot build a nursing home if there's one that's within 50 miles or something like that. So that's what they told council at that time. You cannot have a nursing home because the state says you can't. They ate it up, there was no nursing home.
Ms. Petboy, that was a really good question and a really good concern that I also have too. I am in support of having an elderly assisted living home where I think that somebody who would be certified in CPR, first aid, training, some security, purposes, security guards, security officers, someone who's able to do computers, who can set the alarm. I would be for that 100%, but I would make sure that I would do a feasibility study, and I would make sure that the rest of the districts had input on it also. And I would be more than happy to go forward and look for some kind of grants or some kind of funding to help support that.
Well, this has been looked over by council several times, right, Francis? And the cost is unbelievable. The only way we could have one, because we would not be allowed to use Medicare or Medicaid, which would Washichas get to do, because there's no longer any elderly homes being built anywhere in the state. In fact, this past year, 5 of them closed in Washicha towns. So, and they can't afford to keep them open. So, our problem is we have to make the sacrifice of subsidizing it, because we wouldn't be able to use your Medicare or Medicaid to keep the doors open. If you go to Tekakwitha, you're pretty much guaranteed that you're gonna lose all your money. They'll take all your Medicare and Medicaid and the money you got in your pocket. They'll take every cent. And our own place would have to be subsidized by our gaming facility. Now, if you guys want to do that, then the building can be built. But that's where we need to reinvest our monies. My district, for example, the last 10 years, we've received over $9 million from gaming. We don't have nothing to show for it. We have a whole bunch of happy birthdays. That's what we do with our money. Every district, we all have happy birthdays. So all our casinos gave all this money that's been given to us. We take it, we have happy birthdays, we buy wish days, and we all appreciate it. But we don't have nothing to show for it. Now that money can be reinvested. We can easily have an elderly facility. We can easily turn around and reinvest it into our casinos, is what I propose. We can easily turn around and invest in the 40-acre field of hemp that we have in North Dakota already, developing the seed for the time when we're able to. We don't have enough land in North Dakota, so what we've got to do, and what USDA told us yesterday, hemp is going to be recognized by the state. It's just a matter of time. They congratulated us that we're ahead of anybody else because we're developing our own seed, and so we'd be ready for that, and we could plant hemp all over this reservation on our land. And I never knew until I researched it that hemp could be used to build homes, and that's what we could use it for. We could develop a hemp factory to develop these things. There's oils that help heal arthritis. Every Native American has arthritis to one form or another. Well, now I'm getting it at 64. That's what hemp does. There's oils, but there's a problem with that. They're researching it now that these oils that come from hemp, does it show that you're using drugs? So now you can't be employed by the tribe because you may test positive for drugs. These are all the questions that have to be answered. And even if medical marijuana was approved in this state, which will probably be the last state to do it, but even if it was, we wouldn't be able to utilize it at IHS because IHS, as a federal institute, will never let us use medical marijuana because it's illegal in the Fed's eyes. So way back when we started, somebody said we need the 638. We had a chance. Travis Rendell brought it in. We were against it because people were afraid of losing their jobs. Nobody will lose their jobs. They're all tribal members working there except for the professional doctors. And they come in on contracts. So that's how the forward thinking we have to improve our tribe. And we can do it. And that's what I propose. That we reinvest with our district money. Instead of stealing it, reinvest it into our gaming industry, into our economic development, and into our health phenomenon.
With the elderly village, I know Franny, did you vote no on that with the, yeah, there's only a couple of us that voted no. We didn't like the tax credits. We had so much trouble with them over at Barker Hill. There's issues that go on with tenants there that we cannot control, and we didn't like that because if you go tax credits, yeah, it's good because you can get rent real cheap, but you got to follow their rules, and it's tough because there's some people that lost their home because of stuff they didn't even do, and it was somebody that was just visiting their home or some other situation. With the elderly, it was, started out with DNDC, then I think it went back to the tribe. Is it still with the tribe?
Council's now the board.
Council has the board now, DNDC. That one's just like a rolling ball of dirt, I guess. Yeah. And I'm good with it because it's giving us a place for our elders. The only way I would have voted yes is how they're doing it now, is where we would be paying for it. And I remember talking with the vice chair. The reason why we didn't have the money is because we were doing tax credits. But once we found out tax credits, it's like we're gonna be paying double what we would if we just do it ourselves. And that's where council gave the directive to vice chair to go and find the money to where we can just build it ourselves and we can manage it ourselves, and we wouldn't have to be under tax credit stipulations. Other than that, I don't really. Oh, the tarot with it. I believe the motion that was passed with the tarot, that was just for the HGK? Yeah, that was just for the design work, and how it got passed saying that we passed no tarot and all that is not true. I was like, I don't know where that came from. I couldn't find the motion to where it said skip tarot. I don't see why we'd skip tarot on this project other than the famous dirt work, but that's all I got.
Thanks for coming, Crystal. I'm not the only Sisseton one here. We need to plan better. I keep repeating this. We gotta have competent attorneys. This wouldn't have happened with this project if you had competent attorneys saying, here's our checklist. We have our loan, we have our funding secured, tarot being followed. Okay, where's the motion on that? Ask Francis, I don't know. I don't know how they go from approving a design for the elderly complex to full-blown construction. All with sheeches over there. But this is the what happens, you've got the cart before the horse, always, here. And we have to stop doing that. And if I have to beseech you to say, we will do this project right, we will have funding secured, then we're gonna have to do it. We have to come into the 21st century with our business and running our tribe. This has to stop. A $6.5 million elderly complex, was that brought to the districts? Was that, I mean, that should have went to a vote to all of the elders. For $6.5 million, we have elderly complexes. We could have put a budget together and hired nurses to come and have our assisted living at our different housing areas. $6.5 million. Another project like IHS where employees can, our people can barely afford to stay and pay rent. When you hear all these numbers thrown out there, the connection and the Sioux making all this money, it's hogwash. The Sioux and the connection haven't made money for years. Prove it. Show us the financials. I did oppose the Magic construction. Is that building falling apart? Was it? Yes. Is the connection falling apart? Yes. We've got to have planning. We've got to, but first we have to be able to afford all of these projects. Look at this $30 million building over here. It's outrageous. We started moving in the first couple of weeks. We had programs moving out because we didn't have enough space, but look at the middle of it. You could have a football game over there. You know what the cost is for the heating and the cooling? It's outrageous. We've got to have common sense type of approach to governing our tribe. We need to stop these projects and get a financial report out to the people. When you hear all these numbers out there of, oh, the crossing is, we're fighting it. Not making money, oh, what's the word they were using? We're not breaking even. Show us the report. The last report was like this, and it said sales were $500,000 a month on average. Figure out groceries at 5%. That's 25. Sounds really good, don't it? $500,000 a month. Ooh, wait. When are we gonna start getting our check? When you take that at 5% a profit, that's $25,000 a month. That doesn't even cover your payroll. And now you create a hardship on your elders to drive home and have to buy groceries here. Let's not do that to our elders. One project that we can do that housing does receive some funding for is for our veterans. I think there's a possibility that if we look into that, we could look at getting a small veterans home for our elders. But Darlene, with the elderly, it's going to be a fight. But look at this, $6.5 million. We could have used that to, friends, we could have built a high-rise. We could have built a high-rise elderly project, apartments, and then phased it into. We always talk about phasing, which we should do. Phase projects into an elderly assisted living. $6.5 million. We could have done something, planning. We got to start planning, but we got to get our financials in order. And these guys throwing these numbers out there left and right, don't believe it. Show us the report. I want to see the audit where we're auditing our gaming funds, because we weren't last year. Let's start using common sense, and let's get the people in there with the education and real world experience to advise us and move on these projects. We need good attorneys. We need good construction people. Let's put our people to work. We can't keep spending like drunken monkeys. It's crazy. We cannot do this anymore. And one thing I wanted to mention, since we're talking about the Magic and our casino employees, Let's start treating our casino employees with respect. They get 2 foot of snow, they're expected to be at work. These guys are off work for what, 2 months this winter? Let's start compensating our casino workers, because we would have nothing if it wasn't for them. If they have to get to work on a snow day, let's give them time and a half. Let's start treating our casino employees with respect. If these guys fail drug tests over here, they fail drug tests up there, well then give them a chance too. Let's work with our people and not do this to them. We have 2 separate class societies here. You know, I'm a sociology major. And you have a lot of haves and you have a lot of have-nots here. And you talk about something about elder cards and $3,500 for bikes. Are you serious? These guys cash out $15,000 every Christmas. Fake FICA and cash and leave they've already used every year. You could buy bikes for all of our kids with that money. We gotta start cutting. We gotta get our finances in order. Don't believe the things you hear. Say, prove it to me. Show me the financials. I've seen the financial of the crossings, the one they gave. But I heard council just finally got a financial report, and I can't wait to see that. Get it to my buddies and look at that. Thank you.
On the elderly complex, I don't know anything about it. All I know is that it just was being built there. I didn't pay attention to any of the Yapi. I didn't, so I don't have any answers on that. On assisted living, I understand it's an importance, we need it. But like in my family, we try to take care of our elders in our home. We did that with my grandpa, Dan. We did that with my mom. I quit my job so I can help her take care of her. But that's just the way we do it. I don't know how everybody else is doing it, but that's how we do it.
You know, we sit here and we blame our attorneys for everything, but it's not the attorneys that are elected officials. At the end of the day, it comes down to the elected officials who cast their votes. The attorneys are there to advise council, yes, but like I said, I mean, we can sit here and blame, you know, our attorneys that we have. When it comes to the Elderly Village project, this was started back in 2013 maybe. The former CEO of Dakota Nation Development Corporation was Glenn Anderson, and he applied for the tax credits for this project way back then. And I want to say, I think there was feasibility studies done on the Elderly Village project. Back in about around the same time, there was a group called the Buckley Group that Sarah Dakota had put out an RFP for, and there was, you know, monthly, if not every 2-week meetings that were being held at IHS, and we were looking at building an assisted living center. That was the #1 priority for tribal council back then, and the grocery store was #2. Because of the feasibility study coming back saying it wasn't feasible for us to have a assisted living center, that's when the grocery store became #2. It was gonna cost us about $1.5 to $2 million in operating expenses yearly to have that assisted living center. The state of South Dakota limits how many nursing homes are licensed in the state of South Dakota. That's why a lot of people are going towards assisted living centers. But with the governor declining or doing away with the reimbursements with Medicaid, Medicare, that's what's gonna hurt if we were to go forward with an assisted living center. Because our tribal members can't afford to pay $3,000 to $5,000 like they are at Tecumseh Nursing Home. And at Tecumseh Nursing Home, it's bad when you hear of my own Kushi laying on the floor for 6 hours and nobody came in to come and check on her. You know, so I mean, if we're gonna do an assisted living center, and if you want it to be full-blown, you know, then we're gonna have to pay top dollar for our staffers that we're gonna be having there, because you're gonna have to have professional staff around the clock. So, the assisted living center, you know, the first tax credit project, we were awarded $5 million in tax credits. Then all of a sudden, the architect, which was Dubois, because they were tax credit, that's who the funding source was. They came in and theirs was a design build project where they came in and they hired their own contractors, their own architects. All of a sudden, the total cost amount inflates up to $11 million, but yet we only were awarded $5 million in tax credits. That's why the funding source turned away. Is it still possible to build that project? Yes, it is. The federal government just approved Indian housing block grant monies. They released $198 million. If that project's turned over to the housing can then apply for it. Because the footings are already poured, your concrete slab's almost being poured, that's considered a shovel-ready project. That's what they're accepting grants for right now. That's the process that we can take to make sure that your travel dollars aren't being spent. For whatever reason why the membership other than Lake Traverse wasn't informed, I don't know. You're gonna have to ask them, the other council reps, the other board members that were on that Dakota Nation Development Corporation. But last month at my district meeting in Lake Traverse, I took back the financials of what it was gonna cost for the monthly rent for a 1-bedroom apartment and the monthly rent for a 2-bedroom apartment. And I'll say right now, if we go with a line of credit, there's not too many of our travel members that are gonna be eligible to live there. They're not gonna be able to afford it. But if we were to use the IHB block grant to the housing, it'd be feasible for our members to live there. The only good thing, if we would have stayed with the tax credits, was that our members would have been, they would have afforded to live there because it was based on low income. But if you're familiar with tax credits, each project, you look at, okay, so maybe 2-3 years ago, if you remember, tribal council and everybody else was out at Barker Hill cleaning it up. Because of their provisions with their financial supporters, we were on the verge of almost paying back probably the total project amount for Barker Hill because of their guidelines. Our tribe didn't have that money to afford that, to pay that back. And at that time, that's why tribal council and all the other execs were out there cleaning, pitching in to make sure that we didn't have to pay that money back to our investors. That's the downside of going with tax credits. But there's also other ways, there's other avenues, and they were discussed today in our roundtable of different funding sources for that project. And right now, that project is at a halt because of tariff issues. So it can be done. It can be done without a cost to the tribe. But it's up to the council and it's up to the board members that oversee these different boards and committees too. Like I said, if it's turned over to the housing can run with it. There's, like I said, $198 million that's afforded to them, you know, with the recent passing of their bill. So the housing can take over that and run with it and get it done. And it wouldn't cost, you know, 15 million or 8. It wasn't gonna cost 15 million to begin with. That was a line of credit that the vice chairman was going after to help subsidize some of the other programs as well. It was still gonna be within $5 to $6 million for them to build that project. But like I said, I mean, you know, a lot of our members wouldn't be allowed to live there because a lot of our elders are living on fixed income, SSI, Social Security. For a 2-bedroom apartment, you were looking at $4.5 to live there every month. And I don't think some of our members would be able to afford that. Yes, Harley.
I'm getting chilly, I have to leave. Anyway, back in, I have to find that paper, I should have brought it. Okay, federal government was going to fund specifically elderly care units, I forget what it was called. I think it was 2006 or 2008. Now, why didn't we Why weren't we aware of that? I'll have to bring that paper, you know? That they were gonna do specialized funding for elderly nursing home, elderly care. The support group, I forget what all was included. I think that was 2006, 2008. How come we weren't on top of that, you know? I looked at that and I said, wow, this is really great, you know? Didn't happen. There was no elderly care center. You know, is that what we think about elderly, let somewhere else or something? I don't know. But you better start caring. I believe, they always say, there's nothing impossible to do. It's us. We make it impossible.
I appreciate that comment.
All right.
And if the elderly advisory board members remember, that's what we were trying to do with the elderly affairs program, where they had registered nurses and whatnot. I think they have one registered nurse that works in that office. That was our LPN. They were supposed to be going out and helping our tribal members, our elders that needed assistance. But like I said, I mean, what Jesse reported earlier, you know, there was, I believe it was either seven or nine nursing homes or assisted living centers that have closed in the last year. You look at the Teckwitha nursing home right now, they're probably on the verge of closing their doors right now too, because of it was just because of the change of ownership. When the Oblates owned that, they operated off of donations. And you had so many people, millionaires, that were donating money to the Oblates. That's how they kept it open all these years. Now you got a private owner that's owning it, and they're shutting everything down. Rossel Nursing Home shut down because they couldn't afford to keep their doors open. There's so many places, you know, there's only so many nursing homes you can have in the state of South Dakota. Pine Ridge, for example. We talked about, somebody mentioned Pine Ridge earlier. They built an assisted living center. But do you want to know where they built it at? They built it in White Clay, Nebraska, because of the regulations and guidelines the state of South Dakota imposes. So yes, there was a feasibility study on an assisted living center. Was it feasible at the time? No, it wasn't. The Health and Human Service Board members, if you have any of if you want to look at the study, ask your Health and Human Service Board member. Sarah Dakota's program paid for that feasibility study. The company that did that feasibility study was called the Buckley Group out of Chicago, Illinois. In there, it'll give you a financial breakdown of why it wasn't feasible.
Just for your information as well, we have a second committee that's kind of attached to the Elderly Advisory Board. It's called the Elderly Advisory Protection Team. And one thing we've been finding out is that, yes, there is a need for a lot of elders to go to the nursing home, because it wasn't like a long time ago where everybody was taking care of everybody and looking after your mom or your dad and all that. Nowadays, the youth, they don't care about their parents anymore. They're just letting them waste away in their own homes and not going in to check on them and things like that. And so there has to be somewhere where elderlies can go to be taken care of. The other thing that we thought that we were going to do in the Elderly Protection Committee is we want to go around to the area nursing homes like Rounds Valley, Wilmot, Webster, Millbank, because we know that there's neglect to some of our tribal elders. I know at Browns Valley, my aunt fell out of her bed, laying on the floor for 2 to 4 hours before even anybody discovered that she was even on the floor. The state of Minnesota has decided that they're going to set some new guidelines for nursing homes as well, about the care that patients are receiving. So we're kind of waiting to look at that so we can go around and ask questions at some of these nursing homes about what kind of care our elders are receiving. Anyway, I think it's 8 o'clock. We got one quick question. It's got to be quick.
It is. I'm looking for a leader that can take over major problems that we discussed. One of the things, though, is they get to elect administrative assistant. In the past, there's been administrative assistants that aren't qualified to be in that position. For example, the secretary's office has 23 major programs. You have individuals in there that may or may not know all those programs. You have some in vice chairman's office that have relatives, immediate relatives in there that aren't experienced in that area with those programs. So if you get elected to this position, how do you feel about that in our policy, the travel policy, nepotism is in there? So who would you, I think that position, there are certain qualifications that have to be developed to be qualified in those positions. How do you support that idea?
If elected, my thing, you know, if this is how I look at the political appointee position. First of all, you need somebody that knows budgets in your office. So that would be my #1 priority. Because you can't rely on the vice chairman's office to do all your program budgets for you. Each individual executive should be responsible for their own budgets. So therefore, I would bring somebody in that knows numbers, that knows budgets. That would be one of them. The other one would probably be somebody that's knowledgeable with grants. Because you got federal funding, you got state funding, you got all these different fundings, and you gotta make sure that you're in compliance with your funding sources. Because if you're not in compliance with your funding sources, you're gonna lose those grants. Then what are we gonna do? So those are my main concerns if elected for political appointee positions. Somebody that knows budgets and somebody that knows grants.
Can you repeat that question again? Because I think you went off a little bit more than.
In the executive positions, they get a
Right.
appointee. I'm concerned about qualifications of appointees. They should be have certain qualifications in order to be in those positions. Not being put in those positions because they're close relatives or those kind of things. We have major problems in some of those offices in the past 5 years.
Oh, for myself?
So, I'm looking for a leader that will pick individuals that will qualify, especially in the chairman's office, you oversee everything. So you need a well-qualified individual that will understand our late Travis representatives, and those are some key things that I'm looking for in an administrative assistant for the chairman's office.
You're talking, do they get to determine how much they're getting to? Is that what you're saying too?
I'm not worried about the salary, I'm worried about to make sure
Okay.
they will be qualified to
I would
assist the
pref-
chairman in.
For me, I would be looking for either an attorney type of person or somebody in finance. That's the top two. And then that second part of the question, what was the second? Oh, you were talking about nepotism too.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, nepotism's been a problem issue forever. I don't think you'll ever get rid of it. But at the same time, we have family members that are really you know, like I have, for myself, I know that I have a couple of attorneys in our family alone, you know. What am I supposed to do, and say they can never work for the tribe because they're my first cousins, you know? I've had, you know, I graduated from high school with a cousin who's an attorney. She graduated with my brother in my brother's class. She works in Washington DC, and she's a tribal member. But I don't think she's ever worked here. I think, you know, we need to kind of attract some of them, but not shy away from using our own, you know, the people who are not as highly educated. You know, I don't want to ever look down on another person's education. I know I did in the past because it was foolish of me to do that. I didn't pay attention to their qualifications as a leader, you know, because I was angry at the time. So kind of fun, I learned my lesson the hard way over time. And now, as far as, you know, I've seen some like nepotism. For example, I know for IHS we have a CEO who's related to David Flute. He's his first cousin. But he's like one of the best CFOs or CEOs that we've had in a long time. And I don't mind him being there. As a matter of fact, he does them like a monthly meeting. He tries to at least get involved in each program a little bit. And he will try to get everyone focused on an agenda for the whole facility. Versus in the past, we never used to see him. We knew that we had a CFO or a CEO, but we never saw him hardly. But now we have one that we do see, and I've noticed the effect of him coming down towards things. The look of our building and the inside is starting to change now. We're implementing more Dakota language into our facility. But at the same time, we're limited because we aren't a 638 facility, you know. And I really, I don't know, I just like the way that he does it. And I overlook the fact that he is, yes, the first cousin of somebody else, you know. So, I mean, you have to give people a chance too.
First of all, you need to step back and you need to make sure you have a qualified chairman to begin with education, experience, good judgment. You know, when I was in office, I had Bruce Renville's got a master's degree. He ran my office. Michael Roberts was my appointee. He's got a master's degree in business, years of experience, and a law-trained, you know, law-trained lawyer. We do have to put together policies to stop nepotism, not only at the tribe with the appointees, but other places like the real world. You shouldn't be supervising your daughter, your uncle, or your grandpa. But you run into problems like that where you start looking out for your family member over your tribe. And you've had that. We've had people who've taken money, not just here, but at the store and different places. You want to have transparency out there, and we start getting family members involved, that'll start being swept under the table. So I have to comment on IHS 638, and I've said it before. We can't even run a grocery store, and then these guys want to take over our healthcare, and I'm totally opposed to that. Totally opposed to that. I'm glad she brought that up. she's my cousin, but I have to say that, so. We have a long way to go to bring credibility back to that, to our tribe, running the tribe and our casinos and our businesses before we start looking at 638ing our healthcare. I think I got your question, sir.
I'll just give from my past experiences being a secretary, how I did it was, I wanted somebody there that would be friendly on the phone when the office is being called and was able to do the office manager type stuff to where, you know, when checks came in, they're able to distribute, pay the bills, stuff like that, and still have not retaliate against anybody that came to my office. The second one, I brought in Marlis. The reason for that was to try and get Medicaid, sort of like a satellite office to where the tribe can do it. And so we could start getting reimbursements back from, you know, elderly program, our CHR program, stuff like that. But I didn't plan on having her be there. I didn't think it was gonna take that long, but it took longer than I expected, and she ended up being there the whole time I was there. And the crazy thing is they actually called me today saying they're ready to come down to be set up office here. So, and I said, well, you're gonna have to talk to Myrna Thompson now, because she's the one that makes that decision. But that's how I go about mine, seeing what needs to be done and who has the expertise to do it.
Doc Yapi. One of the persons I asked to help me is, has a master's degree in HR, because that's one of the main departments out of 16 departments under the chairman, to handle all, make sure everybody's rights are protected. Then again, the other position would, because of procurement and procurement problems, would bring an individual that retired from the BIA that certified in procurement process and trained, and also is certified by OMB for the regulations that we have to follow with our federal grants. So those are the people that I have in mind. You know, nepotism is a tough thing on our reservation when you're related to almost everybody. So it comes down to the character of the person you want to put in there. Is this character of the person that you put in there, is that one that you can trust? Is that one that you can come and confront them and not be worried about being yelled at or thrown out, or that you can talk to at any time, at any place on this reservation, that is willing to come to each district meeting, each committee meeting that is in process that requires the contract to come and talk. No more hide behind closed doors. I think that's the kind of leader that we're looking for somebody that has the character of having honesty and not stealing and being truthful and not worried about everything that's going on elsewhere in the tribe. There is so much responsibilities just under the leadership of the Itacha in those 16 programs, and then having the time and the ability to focus ahead and try to have a vision for our people. That's what we need. We need to have a vision for our people, that our young people have something good to look forward to, so they can look for a place to live and have homes. You know, our housing where I employ at is transforming into a different type of housing. It's no longer trying to be a slumlord. It's actually trying to be a housing facility that has avenues of becoming home ownership, having the different levels of rental, from low rental to high rental at IHS, using those stepping stones to the bank, saying, I live at IHS, I pay $800 a month, I've lived there 3 years, I can own and maintain a home. Those kind of things is what we're trying to do at housing, and that's what we need to do to build the character of our people. So that is what I propose, that And that's why I propose that you guys vote for me, because I plan and I will do these things, and if not, you can come and scold me for not staying on track. And so Nina Woping.
She was saying, hey. Mr. LaRock, that is a really good question, and I've thought about that over and over and over. And I am looking for somebody who is compassionate, and grant writing is a must, because I believe in, to be a leader, you have to be beside your people, and you have to work with them and not above them or around them or nothing like that. I want to work beside the people. That's what I want to do. I have selected, or I have requested, going to be requesting, I should say that's more appropriate, that my assistant who I worked with day to day for the past 2.5 years, and who has showed me compassion, who has showed me that she is serious about her job, and who has been dependable, and who has been able to provide everything I've asked of her, whether it's research, whether it's in the budgeting, whether it's in just somebody to sit down and to vent to. I've confided in her, and that would be Brooke Owen. She does have 15 plus years of experience here in the tribe. I don't believe she has broken any employment. She is, and I'm not opposed to people and demanding that they do have a degree. I support the working family. If they have work experience, and if they can come in and give me a good interview, give me a good resume, you know, I would strongly consider that. I do not agree with hiring family. That will never happen. What else can I say? So she would be one person that I would request, or that I have actually am going to request to come along with me. She does have a criminal justice degree, and she has worked for law enforcement. I have previously worked in the vice chairman's office under Carol Russo, and with that, I've also gained more experience working with the budget. So her and I know and have ran our department continuously in the black. We were able to cut in different areas. We've always been that department that's been always able to cut here, cut there. You know, it's all about budgeting. So that would be one person who I would, and I would definitely take resumes, applications. I would like somebody who is going to be there all the time and who is going to represent our office at a very, very high standard. Thank you.
So I put a lot of thought into this question, and in a tribal chairman's office, you need somebody who is compassionate. You need somebody who is understanding. You need somebody who is a good listener. You need somebody, one of my main things is going to be somebody who can be there at least by 7:45, if not 7:30, to get the day started, because we have to be on time. Time and attendance is going to be a must. You know, as far as it's not going to be, I'm not going to pick my daughter or my son or anything like that. I'm going to actually take applications, put it out in a newspaper, and see who is interested, because sometimes when our site is only this far, we might miss somebody out there who might be going through a job change, somebody who might really be good for the position. So I think it's good to actually put it out there and let people know that everybody has a chance. The secretary and so we hire 2 people. We get a secretary, and then we get somebody who will be like my right-hand person. And I think that person, it's good to know budgets, be a little knowledgeable, but it's also more important, I think, for them to actually be able to work with community. If you come into the office, they're going to get you a cup of coffee, they're going to ask what's wrong, they're going to ask how can we help you. So we need somebody like that. When you come in, we want you to be treated with respect, and we want you to be treated in a good way. So this budgeting, things like that, those are the jobs of our program managers. I think, I really support our tribal employees. I also support our casino employees. I have 5 kids that work for the casino. I know all the struggles that they go through. I know these indiscrepancies that between the tribe and the casino. I've heard all the conversation. But the thing is that we have to be, hold ourselves accountable, and whoever works with me in that position, I'm gonna expect the same of them. I'm also gonna expect the same of our program managers. There's a lot wrong right now with some of our programs. There's a lot right too. But the thing is that the people of our Oyate, that they get the best treatment that they can get, that they deserve. And our program managers, I will hold accountable to do their jobs, because when we talk about a lot of these issues, sometimes it comes down to program managers not doing their jobs. It comes down to not wanting to fire somebody, not wanting to reprimand somebody, because, oh, they're gonna get mad at you. They're not gonna like you. Sometimes we have to make those hard decisions. Somebody has to do it, right? And I think that's a big part of the chairman's position, is you have to make change. Change is inevitable, no matter what we do. That change is gonna come. If we wanna get better, if we wanna improve, if we wanna be the best we can be, we have to make change. And some people are not gonna like that. Some people don't like me from when I was travel secretary and I made a lot of changes. That goes with the territory. And so, but I would ask that whoever works with me, they treat our Oyate members with much respect.
Okay, that's going to be it for questions this evening. We appreciate everybody coming. If you didn't have your questions answered, next weekend the radio station is going to be having a forum as well. And when they have theirs, you can send your question in on Facebook and then be answered by the candidates. The candidates are all going to stand up here in the front if you'd like to come by and shake hands with them. I think we'd all appreciate that. Thank you. Good night.
Covering everything.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.